Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We count on our sponsors to provide us with the support that we need so we can deliver programs and services. And with us today is none other than Dan Millman. He is with Enterprise Mobility, and he is their Vice President and General Manager. Dan, thanks for all your support.
Dr. Murillo, it is always a pleasure to be with you in this setting and in everyone we get a chance to partner with the Chamber. We appreciate this very much, the opportunity to work so closely with the Chamber and all the things you do for our community.
Well, thank you so much. We've got a great team of staff and board members and sponsors like yourselves. And what an exciting time. New name, Enterprise Mobility, which fits in very well. And sounds like the eclipse was good for business. So talk to us about Enterprise and what's going on with you all.
For sure. So the name Enterprise Mobility is new for our brands. And why is that? Well, for starters, our goal is to be the world's best and most trusted mobility company. That's what we want to do. When we did some studies recently, though, as much as we've been part of this community, for instance, we're celebrating our 51st year in Houston with Enterprise. But when we studied this, some of our customers didn't realize that we do more than rent cars. So that's when we wanted to make sure we were using a name that would help introduce our mobility lines. For instance, in our neighborhood, we are Enterprise Rent-A-Car, as you know us and love us so much. In the airports, we also have Enterprise, we have Alamo, and we have National. But many people didn't realize we have a truck rental division where we rent box trucks. We sell cars out of a car sale division. We have a leasing division, Enterprise Fleet Management, which has done some great work with the city and particularly with Fire Chief Pena. We have an exotic line, and for those times when you want to have, something really nice or treat yourself, these are all different parts of Enterprise Mobility. So that's what we're out really trying to promote a little bit more, that we do many things that are mobility related, not just rent cars.
And you have to agree that Houston, as the fourth largest city in the country,
Yeah.
is a place where you're seeing a lot of people remaining in travel and remaining in their city or in their state, right? They're doing more driving. So what are you seeing there? What are the opportunities for your business?
So that's a great point. So we are continuing to see the infrastructure build here. People are moving here, businesses are coming here. So we're seeing a combination of, in your neighborhood, we are expanding operations to take care of our local customers when they have any kinds of needs. And you mentioned the eclipse, which was kind of interesting. We had a lot of folks rent in their local neighborhood and travel to a destination where they wanted to see something or do something. So that's something that we are always a part of. And when you're in your time of need and your vehicle that you own might be down, we are that company that will replace your car while yours is being repaired. But the travelers, to your point about the size of the city, people are coming into our airport operations at Bush and Hobby, and we're seeing that come in the form of both business travelers
Yes.
and leisure travelers that want to learn more about Houston.
Well, and also jobs and jobs, careers. Talk to us about that.
We are real excited about what's going on as we go into the spring and the summer months. We are hiring. For the most part, we hire the management trainee position to give everybody an opportunity to understand what the company culture is about, what operations are. And then it's up to the individual at that point to understand or figure out what their enterprise journey is going to be. And Dr. Maria, that can go into any direction within the business. It can go into finance, it can go into human resources, it can go into sales specifics, and it can go into management. And that's a neat thing that we offer. So most of our leaders around here all came in just like I did as that management trainee to learn the business from the ground level up and see what opportunities are out there. But I can tell you this, in Houston, we have a lot of them and we're excited about it.
Well, once again, Dan, our thanks from the entire team here at the Chamber. Continued success, and our thanks again to you and the entire Enterprise Mobility team.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murillo. It is always a pleasure to be with you.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Goodbye.
Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Very happy to have our next guest, our Mayor Whitmire selected him as the new director of the Houston Airport System, and he's got a huge responsibility with a lot of the airports here, including the Hobby Airport, Intercontinental, Ellington, and a lot of other things that he's responsible for. So he's going to talk to us a little bit about that. Joining us is Jim Sasniak. Thank you so much for joining us, Jim.
Yeah, great to be here.
Well, thank you for the ongoing partnership with the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. For many years, you all have been very involved. I know you've attended several of our events, and so thank you for that, and to your team for being so engaged with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots to report. Great job given the last two storms that we've experienced in Houston. I know that for you and your team, it's been very challenging, but you guys have been very impressive in terms of how you kept people coming and going. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so credit definitely goes to the team, but it's also the plan and the practice that we do. So we've got a hurricane preparedness plan for the airport. We practice it, we implement it. The team executed it perfectly. We can always do better, so we will do a lessons learned afterwards where we can tweak things. But the key thing ultimately is the proof is in the pudding on that. And so the hurricane, the eye wall basically went over both Hobby and Bush on the dirty side, and we were able to basically let the eye wall clear and had the both airports up and accepting flights within 4 hours of the eye wall passing. And then from an operational standpoint for passengers, the next day Hobby was 100% and Bush was around 70%. And then the following day, both airports were 100%. So that's a credit to the team that we have here and the partners that help it all work out here. But it's pretty amazing that, we had a hurricane go right over both airports and we were able to really perform outstanding.
It truly is, especially when you look at overall in the city where we still, even as we are speaking, we know there's still homes and businesses without power. So kudos,
Mine included.
kudos to you and the team,
Yeah.
especially. Tell us a little bit about some of the upgrades and changes especially at Intercontinental Airport.
Yeah, so we've got two major projects that are going on at Intercontinental. One's finishing and one's starting. So obviously the one that everybody's familiar with is the international project, where we're basically taking the old international terminal, we spruced it up. So that's complete. We're adding a pier on the airport on that existing area, so it's another set of gates out there. So it'll be 6 wide body capable gates to increase our capacity for more international flying. And so we're working on finishing that up right now, and so we're hoping to have that done by the end of the summer. And then we've got the international central processor, which is going to be done in 2 phases. So it'll be late winter and then end of next summer. That's going to be basically the replacement for Terminal E, and then also check-in, and then also it's going to be where new international ticketing and drop-offs and pickups are going to be, which is very important for us because with the construction we've got going on right now, we've got kind of 2 primary challenges. Number one, for people who go into Terminal C, you have to recognize that Terminal C right now is 2 terminals in one. Because you have all the Terminal E gates and the Terminal C gates that are operating in there. And so when you go in there, you've got 2 terminals in one. So the TSA checkpoints and the ticket counters and all that's very, very compact and compressed in there. But once the Terminal E opens up for United to move back in there, that'll relieve a lot of the pressure in Terminal C. And then also the international arrivals curb. Right now, we've got the temporary curb that we've got there. It's not a very good customer experience, but we're going to be able to open the new curbs for the new building, hopefully right before Christmas, to be able to handle with that traffic and release a lot of the roadway traffic that we've got, at the airport.
Well, that would be right on time for the holiday scurry and getting people in and out. So important. So tell us a little bit about this Whisk Arrow. What is that?
Yeah, so Whisk Arrow is it's they call it eVTOLs or electric helicopters or whatever you want to use. But what it is it's basically an electric helicopter, and it's designed to offer service similar to like an Uber Black. And so you're going to see again those kind of vehicles popping up in the Houston area sometime probably in 2027, 28, somewhere in that time frame. And what they will be primarily used for to start is a service where if you are living in the south side of the city, you'll be able to jump on an eVTOL at Ellington and take it directly to Bush and fly over the traffic. Also, if you're out in Sugar Land or if you're out maybe by Houston Executive, some of these, further out areas of the city, or the metro area, you'll be able to take those flying helicopters directly into the airport and then be able to jump on your planes right there. And so you've got Whisk that's going to be doing autonomously, and then you've got Archer that's a partner with United, and they just signed an agreement also to work with Southwest. So we'll have a lot of these things probably in the Houston market in the near future to be able to kind of get you around the traffic.
Well, certainly all of that is appreciated. Anything else that you'd like to leave us with before we wrap up the interview?
Yeah, so again, United Airlines is also kicking off a big project at Bush, so they're going to be redoing completely Terminal B. And then at Hobby, we're doing an expansion at Terminal there, where it's going to be a 7-gate expansion. 6 of them are primarily for Southwest. So again, if we look at Houston, it's a growing market. We've got about 140,000 people moving here on an annual basis. So we continue to see increased traffic at the airports. We're seeing record numbers this summer. So we're again trying to build the infrastructure to make sure that we have all we need to be able to handle the future growth at Houston.
Well, once again, thank you for all that you and your team are doing, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Hispanic Chamber of Commerce event. Thank you.
All right, thank you too.
Bye-bye. Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today. First, we'd like to begin with our condolences to all of those who lost their lives during hurricane, to their families. It has been a devastating occurrence here in our great city, Houston. Please remember to check our website. We have resources for you all, from the SBA to FEMA and other places that are here to provide support during these unfortunate circumstances. So we hope you are well. We hope your families are well. And please know that your chamber has been collaborating with elected officials, nonprofits, corporate partners, and others to help get Houston back on its feet. Our guest is Michelle Miller. Speaking of partners, and she is the Senior Vice President of Verizon. Verizon's been a great partner to us here at the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. As you know, they offer so many services, so many products. And so, Michelle, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your background and overview, if you will, about Verizon, specifically here in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Michelle Miller, as you mentioned, Senior Vice President and Coastal Plains Market President for Verizon. And I lead all Verizon consumer sales across 9 states, including the great state of Texas. My team is responsible for all of the frontline activity in the retail stores. We help customers with their mobile and home internet services, and we work alongside hundreds of other Verizon employees in Greater Houston to ensure we provide an excellent customer experience to consumers, small businesses, as well as enterprise customers. And just as you just said, our hearts too go out to all those in Houston impacted by Hurricane Beryl. I know it's been a very rough week for all, but I also know that Houston is just an incredibly strong community. And so we have thousands of our employees as well in Houston, across Texas as a whole included, that have worked just tirelessly alongside first responders and other residents to help the community get back up and running. So whether it was ensuring our network was functioning to our standards, opening up all our stores to get everyone those charging stations that are needed, especially in this time, and those needed in the cooling centers. Just proud of the team here and how they show up consistently ready to serve Houston.
Very important. Speaking of that, there's a lot of impact that you all make, including with the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as a corporate partner, and making sure that you are present at our many, many initiatives throughout the year. But tell us about the greater region and some particular programs.
Yeah, our purpose here at Verizon is to power and empower how people live, work, and play. And one way we do this is through programs that are designed to create societal change. And so right now we have our STEM-focused Verizon Innovative Learning Camp. It's a day camp. It's taking place at Texas Southern, and it's where middle schoolers are learning 3D printing, virtual reality. They're learning how to code, and they're also learning about higher education opportunities. We also have another program that I love. It's called Small Business Digital Ready. It's a free resource where small businesses, we give them access to over 50 courses. They have access to expert-led workshops in-person and virtual networking opportunities, as well as incentives. And what I love most, we have over 300,000 businesses in that program. 51% of those are women-owned, and 62% are Black or Hispanic-owned businesses. Such a wonderful program, too, that I've personally had the opportunity to speak with.
That's excellent. So very important. We always want to make sure that our businesses, especially those entrepreneurs that are out there, that they have the support that they need. Also, happy to announce that you guys have a great partnership with the Texans, the Dynamo and Dash.
Yes, we have a long-standing partnership with several of those that you just mentioned, including the Houston Texans, who I hear is going to have a good year this year. That's what they're saying, right?
Yes, that's the hope. I just met with their president, Greg Grissom, had a great conversation about the team and their ongoing collaboration with this chamber and looking at audience participation and engaging our chamber more in some of their activities. So very proud of those Texans, and we just need to win more games.
Absolutely. We'll be cheering for them for sure.
Yes.
And we also partner with the Dynamo and Dash, and we also have a partnership with Sugarland Space Cowboys. But what I love about these partnerships, all of them, whether it's the Texans, the Dynamo, it allows us to highlight the importance of our connectivity, and it's all about creating memorable fan experiences for them. And speaking of, I want to share this one with you, Dynamo and Dash. So we're thrilled. It will be our second year. This year we'll be the presenting sponsor for the upcoming Hispanic Heritage Night. So that's very exciting. And then we're also excited to be the presenting sponsor for the Fan Appreciation Weekend this fall. So great ways to, sports brings people together, unites them together. So it's just a great way to be part of the fan favorites.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you and the entire Verizon team for all that you do in our community and for partnering with the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We want to thank you for joining us. Our next guest is Christine Holland. She's going to talk to us a little bit about Rebuilding Together, and she's their CEO. Christine, welcome.
Thanks. I really appreciate being here.
Well, rebuilding, how timely. I'm very familiar with the organization, and we're happy to have you on today's program, Christine. So for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. At Rebuilding Together, we believe that everyone has a right to a safe, healthy, and resilient home that protects them against disaster, which is a very timely thing to talk about. And we're the only organization in our region to provide hundreds of free home repairs every single year for low-income homeowners. We use licensed contractors, and we return the homes to a safe and healthy condition, adding 20 years or more to the life of a home and eliminating a lot of different hazards in homes, like a leaking roof or holes in flooring, electrical systems and plumbing systems that don't work. And very, very important, also year-round temperature control.
Yes, very important. I know folks who are watching might be interested in volunteer opportunities, Christine, or even wanting to know how one can qualify for these services.
Absolutely. I know that because we just had a disaster, people want to volunteer. However, we do not use, we're not first responders. So there's a whole system in Houston to get houses mucked and gutted and trees removed and all of that. And volunteers can learn how to do that on crisis cleanup, for example. We are doing construction. And so we come into the system a little bit later. So for example, we are already doing repairs for derecho, but we're not quite there yet on Beryl. So there are different stages of disaster. Let's talk about how people qualify for our services. And this is really important because we don't just do disaster. We do this work year-round, and people qualify by owning their own home. They need to be a full-time resident of their home. They need to identify as low income based on Houston's area median income. And the services that we're currently providing at no charge, I'm going to talk about the regular services and we'll circle back to disaster if I may. Right now, we provide wheelchair ramps anywhere in Harris County. We provide home repair for veterans anywhere in Harris County. We also have home repairs for rural residents of Harris County. And the most important thing that I wanted to talk with you about today is within the city of Houston, we provide home repairs in the East End. And we're going to identify that by zip code, so no one is confused. That for us is zip code 77003, 77001, 77012, 77023. And we also work in the adjacent third ward, which is 77004.
Very important work that you and your team are doing. Once again, this is Christine. She's the CEO of Rebuilding Together. Christine, how can one become involved?
Well, there's no better time to become involved than right now, since we just had two very major storms at the beginning of hurricane season. So our greatest need is always for donations to complete construction on the homes. At $10,000 can provide a new roof, $5,000 upgrades an electrical system or a plumbing system. $600 lets us give someone year-round temperature control. I really would like to get to see more Hispanic-owned companies and more people in the East End specifically get involved. I know a lot of people have ties to this neighborhood, and it's a very important neighborhood culturally for the city. So everything that anyone needs to know is on our website, rebuildingtogetherhouston.org. People can call and see if they qualify. People can volunteer. People can learn how to donate. It's all right there. And we do have live people answer our phones Monday through Friday,
Nice.
and they are all bilingual.
Well, Christine, once again, we thank you for connecting today with us and for all you do for our Houston area. Have a great day. I'm Dr. Laura Murillo. I had the great privilege to sit and visit with Jesus Terrones, who's an energy executive here in Houston. He told us a lot about his beautiful story, his humble beginnings, which ultimately led him to become a West Point and Harvard graduate. We hope you enjoy the show. Jamie, educator, she taught at your school, was dean at Austin High School in the East End where you grew up.
Yep.
You met her when you were in the 8th grade?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So we used to do migrant farm work, and my dad would take, there was a newspaper they gave in the fiestas and Escala Subasta.
Yeah,
and
of course, I remember. It had ads for jobs.
That's exactly right. So the jobs for the summer, he'd always look ahead, and you pay them a certain amount of money, and you take a bus all the way to these labor camps. And this year it was my 7th grade. Actually, I was finishing my 6th grade year, and then we took a bus to South Carolina, and then from there the season took us to Virginia, and then to Florida, and we were at the labor camp there, and we were just trying to come home, and that was a bad season. We didn't have money to come back, and so what we did is we sold everything we got, and we told the Greyhound bus station, we have all this money, how close can you get us to Houston? I mean, we're expecting, I don't know, Beaumont or something, and they said, well, this takes you to Tampa, Florida. So we ended up in the bus station of Tampa, Florida, and nowhere to go, no money in our pockets, and my dad remembered a phone number he had about a gentleman that was going to would give us jobs in Florida, picking oranges, and he called it and he said, hey, get a taxi, tell him to bring you to this town, Wauchula, Florida, and if you come here, we'll give you a job picking oranges. And we said, well, that's our only option, so we did it. He gave us jobs, and we just wanted to raise money to come back home, my brother, my dad, and I. And so school started, and so education was very important to my dad always, and to me, and so he made me enroll in the class there, and I was supposed to be going to the 7th grade. I said I was actually going to the 8th grade. I skipped the 7th grade, and I don't know why I did that. Don't ask me why, but I did. But the neat thing is I was in a Lanier Middle School here in Vanguard, so you're like a year ahead, and so I was over, and I was, during the divorce, I got set back a year, and that was me trying to take matters into my own hands and put me in the right year I belonged. And I worked hard there, and I think when I started 8th grade, I did really well because I was trying to make sure it did, and I would go to these events for the honor roll kids, and there I met her. And so we met in 8th grade, we dated, and then one day my dad said, hey, we just need to go back to Houston, sold everything that Saturday, and 2 hours later we were driving home to Houston. So I never said goodbye, but I always wondered what happened to her. And so 5 years later, I'm at the West Point Prep School where there's no TV, there's no radio, there's no internet, there's nothing. So you just have to sit in your room and you just reflect on life, and you just think about things you've experienced. And I always wonder what happened to her. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna look her up. So I went to the payphone. Do you remember the payphones back then? The kids probably don't know.
Yeah.
The 1-800 numbers, and got the phone number to the school, the address, and I wrote a letter to my English teacher, another angel, Al Pace. He and I are friends to this day. And so I said, hey, sir, thank you for everything you did. He bought me shoes and T-shirts, and this was pretty bad. I had like 3 jeans for the whole year or whatever. And so he saw that and no socks, and so he took care of me and bought me clothes. And I thanked him for that. And oh, by the way, this is what I've done in my life. I'm at the West Point Prep School, trying to get to West Point the next year. And and actually, so I was trying to get to West Point next year, and then I just asked them, by the way, there's this young lady I'm trying to find, and she is from there. I know what she lives in this very small town. Any chance you can give me her address? And so he did. He got me her address, convinced some of his students to get her, and there was some connection between the kids and relatives. And so I wrote her this long letter telling her, hey, look, I apologize for what I did. It was beyond my control. This is what I've done since then, and this is where I'm at, this is what I'm trying to do, and I hope to one day see you and talk to you in person. And I put this letter in the mail. There's no email back then, and just wondering what would happen, if there anything would come out of that. And I don't know why I felt the strong urge to do that, and I did. Of course, the man upstairs, now I know why, right? Because 22 years later, we're married with 3 kids. But she received a letter and wrote back, long letter, and we became pen pals. After 6 months, we exchanged pictures.
So no phone call, is this all
letters?
All letters. Do you have the letters?
No.
Oh.
I'm a guy. Guys don't keep that stuff. I wish I did. But I threw them away. And then, and then when I went to West Point, I brought her up to formals.
Oh.
So we went to West Point formals together as friends, and we just were best friends for like 4 or 5 years, and she became my best friend.
Yes.
And then my last year at West Point, I finally asked her to be my girlfriend. I'm traditional, so you ask, and then we became boyfriend, girlfriend, and 6 months later I proposed after I finished flight school, and we got married.
Wow. Fascinating. So what were some of the things you were doing when you were your daughter's age?
So she's in the 4th grade right now. I was on the weekends, I was mowing yards in Pearland, Texas, cleaning swimming pools. And this is during the school year, right? And in the evenings, I'd go help clean offices because the gentleman, the lady that we worked for, that my dad worked for, my dad would always have me with him. And by the way, I didn't get paid, so that's just what I did. And so wherever he was working, he always had me next to him, doing whatever, and teaching me to work, really.
What did he teach you? What do you think were your lessons, the biggest lessons you took from your father?
Be prepared. Be prepared for anything. Because things can happen, and don't ever let anything keep you down. I mean, we've lived in a car for 3 months. A little Toyota station wagon. When we were doing migrant farm work in Idaho, I remember, in the labor camp, we got there, and there was no housing left. And so you do what you got to do. You're there to work, so you didn't go there to live in a nice house. You went there to work, so we flipped the back seat of the station wagon, and my brother, my dad, and I slept there for 3 months. And then we'd get up, go do the migrant farm work, and then in the afternoons, we'd go back to sleep there, and that's how it was for 3 months. I mean, those kinds of experiences, and obviously you could tell that it was hurting him, right, for us to put us through this, and he would talk to me about that. He would take these tough moments and extract a lesson, a life lesson from that stays with me forever. And when things got tough and anywhere else, I go back to that, and I go back to that advice. And my mom did the same, different experiences that she endured. And even though I didn't grow up with her, I wasn't there for a lot of things, and she wasn't there for a lot of my experiences, but we just talk about it, and she always gave me advice when we talk on the phone and stuff. And I mean, I go on forever. I've learned a lot from. That's the best thing they've given me, their advice, and the way they did it to where a teenager would listen and take in that life. And when you leave the house, and you remember those things, and under different circumstances, different scenarios that you find yourself in.
But it also prepared you for what was West Point, as you mentioned. With all the yelling and screaming and emptying your bags, you had a place to sleep. You had 3 months.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And
all
then,
of that prepared you for it.
yeah. No, and my dad sometimes he'd say, hey, you got to be tough. So I remember he'd wake us up at 2 or 3 in the morning, my brother and me, and he'd make us hit the punching bag that he had inside our apartment. And he just watched us, and he would teach us how to punch the punching bag. Because he said, you have to toughen up. Because life is going to always be hitting you, and you got to be able to hit back.
Yeah.
And of course, we hated that moment. We just wanted to go to sleep.
Yeah, what do you
Dad,
mean?
it's Wednesday night. I have a test tomorrow. What are we?
No, you're going to get up right now.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, and it was a little bag that I had to retrieve out of a dumpster. He said, hey, that's a great, why did people throw that away? He put masking tape around. I mean, your knuckles bled. I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. He's a tough guy. And, but then you go to West Point, and I had to box. You have to do boxing class. I'm like, oh.
Oh, this is a new bag.
Well, it helps a little bit. I actually enjoyed it. And so, yeah, it was, so, yeah, my dad was different, but I mean, I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
And I wish I could teach my kids some of those things without putting him through what I went through. Because I reflect on those moments, and while I didn't enjoy them as much, I mean, those are the moments that I go back to, like I've told you earlier, when things get tough. And then I'm remind myself, like, wow, I made it through that.
Yes.
And it turns out like that was probably one of the best moments of my life, if you think about it. When
Not at the time.
that's right, definitely not at the time, but now you
But
reflect and yeah, you take a lot away from those moments. Culture shock, both positive and negative.
Okay.
I mean, the negative, because I remember the moment you get off the bus, they said, yep, they signed, all right, go around that building, and you go in there with your bags, and as you turn around, I mean, go around that building, there's these drill sergeants yelling at everybody, making everybody throw everything out of their suitcases and put it back in, and I'm like, what in the world? And I thought, I knew it was gonna be tough, but not this quickly.
Yes, immediately.
Immediately.
They showed who was in charge.
Absolutely, and there was no question.
Yeah.
You didn't have time to question it. So that was, but that was part of you expected some of it, just not that quickly. But then the other side is, and it's funny because a lot of my classmates, we keep in touch, and it's not till recently that I tell them this. They say, you were always all into it there, and you were happy. And I'm like, quite frankly, yes, because that was the first time in my life I had 3 guaranteed meals. I had my own bed. I was not the worst dressed kid. We all had the same uniform.
Yes.
And there was a confidence that comes with that, quite frankly, where, okay,
It was a level for
level,
the first time.
I think that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
And so that felt really nice. And so, I was there to prove myself, because at the prep school, if you prove yourself and you pass your classes, you're automatically into West Point the following year. So very few people get that opportunity. So it was a huge blessing.
One of the stories that stays with me is that throughout this journey, there have always been people, haven't there?
A lot.
Angels, as you referred to them.
Yes.
So talk about the people who opened up a trailer for you guys, a mobile home for you and your dad.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So we met a family, Tommy Dawson and Glenda Dawson. When I moved with my dad, I was in the 3rd grade, and however my dad met him, he offered him a job, and my dad didn't speak English, he didn't speak Spanish, so I don't know how they communicated, but my dad believed that he had offered him a job, so let's go check. So we would drive to Pearland and met the family, and sure enough, they gave him a job, and I was in 4th grade, and until after I finished college, my dad would mow their lawn, do whatever needed, maintain their house, mow the lawn, clean out the swimming pool, paint the garage, do maintenance, and they had rental properties. My dad would go fix. My dad he's a great worker. I mean, he's really good with his hands. He can do, he's amazing. You learn a lot from that too. And so, anyway, yeah, they took us in, and we'd go clean their office, like I said, and when things got tough for us, they would bring us into their house, and we lived there. In their backyard, they had a little trailer, and they said, you guys can live in there anytime. And they bought us groceries. We didn't have to pay rent. I mean, they did a lot. And then the biggest thing that when I mentioned this West Point thing and going to college, they encouraged me big time. And when things got tough, and it's just interesting the way it happened. There were times when we had eviction notices from our apartments, and my dad and I are there, and all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, and like, well, who's that? You open the door, and it was Tommy Dawson. Almost like, as I reflect, you have, it happens a certain way, but you remember them a certain way, almost like light beaming all around him. I see his silhouette. That's exactly it.
Yes.
That's why I call them angels, because that's honestly how I remember them, and the feeling that that overcomes me is. But he'd come in and say, hey, how's it going? What are you guys doing? And then
What do you need?
and don't lie to me. That's what he would say. And don't lie to me. Have you paid the rent? And my dad would kind of be embarrassed, and he'd look at me, has the baby paid the rent? And I would just shake my head. And then he would take money and give us money to pay the rent. And then he buys groceries. He says, "You have groceries? Don't make me go open the cabinets." And I just not know. He gave us money for groceries. And then we didn't have a car. And how do we get to Pearland to mow lawns from Telephone Road and 45? He'd come pick us up, take us to his house, and then he'd come back and drop us off.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, those kinds of things, right? So some of the neatest moments too I remember is when I was at West Point, and I'd come back, and I'd love to be there early morning before they woke up, and then when they came out, they saw me cleaning their swimming pool still. As a senior at West Point, I'd come back and still do that.
And so now you are an executive in a very competitive space. You've traveled the globe. Share with us what that has done for you and your family, how that's changed the way you view life.
The thing that jumps out the most is when I was reading, my son's applying to college now, so I read his essay, and in his essay he says how he's visited 15 countries and multiple continents, and talks about the blessings he's had, and then right before he talks about, he recognizes what his parents have gone through, and he's trying to kind of build on that momentum, right? But when he says that, I enjoy that because it seems like we made this world smaller for him, less complicated to some extent, so that he can say he's been there. He's been to the Great Wall of China, been to Italy, to Rome. He's been to Singapore, the Middle East, Dubai, all that stuff, and a lot of it from work. A lot of it just I also wanted to take him to Thailand, and so I think that's we just talk and we talk about valuing those experiences.
Talk to us about success and how you have dealt with success.
My faith is a big deal to me. I've always stayed true as the best I can. Obviously, I'm not perfect, but I remember the moments I don't forget when I was a kid praying for things to get better, to be able to get accepted to West Point, to be able to go do this, go do that. To this day, I still do that, even when I drive to work. And so it's my faith that has allowed me to do that and maintain that humility.
Well, I want to thank you for spending time with us today, sharing your story of inspiration, hope, and how proud we are that you are doing all the great things that you're doing, and this that you're really in many ways the only beginning now as you embark on so many other opportunities and seeing your children take their next steps, and all along the way, as you said, your faith, your family, your wife have led you to where you are today. So we are just extraordinarily proud of you, and we're thankful that you shared your story with us.
No, thank you guys for the time and for this, and I enjoy keeping up with what your accomplishments are as well, enjoying your book and everything. So thank you so much for everything you do for our community too.
Thank you. Well, I think we all have much to be grateful for. I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to introduce our next Houston legend, none other than Nomi Hussein. He's a prominent attorney in our city and is very civically minded. Happy to have him joining us. You're going to learn a lot more about him and the reasons why we've asked him to serve as a Houston legend on this program. Thanks for joining us, Nomi.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you to the Chamber for giving me such a prestigious honor.
Well, listen, we are out there watching. We see you so involved, not only here locally, but in Washington, D.C., and so engaged. You and I are fortunate to have been appointed to the Houston-Harris County Sports Authority, where great things are happening,
Absolutely.
As everyone knows. And it's just been a pleasure. I think we met in a leadership program a long, long time ago.
We don't want to talk about that.
We don't, but we've been fast friends ever since, Nomi. And what a journey you have had from the University of Texas, going to law school, growing up in a smaller town, not Houston, but you're running in very big circles, Nomi, and it's certainly very impressive, and it's very strategic. It's a lot of hard work. I know you travel internationally to represent your clients. How do you do all of this?
Well, I don't sleep much, and when I do, it's usually on planes. But credit goes to the leaders who came before me, because they blazed a trail that I could follow in their footsteps. And I'm trying to do the same for the leaders that are in our communities that are behind me.
Yes, and speaking of leaders, you currently were asked to chair a new council
with Mayor Turner before his departure. Tell me about that.
So the mayor and his leadership has created a new advisory board, which is the advisory board relating to the Asian American Pacific Islanders community here in Houston. This community has grown in the last 50 years exponentially. It currently represents about 1.2 million people here in the greater Houston area. So the mayor wanted to involve the community a little bit more with the city, and so he created a board of leaders from the community, and he asked me to serve as chairman, which I'm honored to do. And the purpose of the board is basically threefold. First is to increase diversity and involvement of our community in the city boards and commissions. You and I are fortunate to serve on the Sports Authority, and we've also served on various other boards, but we feel like the minority community is a little bit underrepresented across the board and the various commissions. Yes. The second thing is to increase law enforcement awareness and interaction with our community and law enforcement. A lot of times our communities are unfairly targeted with hate crimes, so we're creating a bridge between our community and law enforcement. And lastly comes down to business, which I'm sure being president of this chamber you'll appreciate, is to show our members and educate our members of how to get involved with the city, how to bid for contracts, and get more interaction between our community and the city as far as business relationships.
And it is very important, and we have to begin helping people understand how to help themselves, knowing that it's out there, how to get them registered, certified, all of those great things. And the city is very diversified, and we do have leaders here that understand that the economic well-being of Houston is really in the hands of so many minority groups, such as the Asian Pacificers and others, Hispanics included. And so it's good to see that. And you have been able to truly lead in a lot of ways. Your international reputation, your national reputation in Washington, D.C., and bridging that community with the local impact. Why is that so important to you? You could just be focused on your law business, but why is that such a focus for you?
Well, there's a saying that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I believe that, being at the table is very important for all communities. And I have an opportunity to serve at that table at a national level, and I'm happy to do so. Making money is one thing, and it's great, don't get me wrong. But serving the community also has its own rewards, and it's very special to me. So that's why I go out of my way to try to do whatever I can to serve the community.
And you've done one thing that's, I think, really exciting, which is the Washington Fellows. Tell us about that.
So in 1964, President Johnson created a program called the White House Fellowship. And the White House Fellowship was a program where the president wanted to select up-and-coming leaders from around the country to serve in the White House under his administration. So obviously the president is very busy and doesn't have time to interview everybody that wants to be a White House Fellow. So he appoints a commission of about 20 citizens across the country to serve as White House Fellowship commissioners. When President Biden was sworn in, one of the first commissions he filled was this commission, and he asked me to serve, and I was honored to do so. So we meet about twice a year. We interview in Washington, D.C., the 50 finalists from around the country, and then we narrow that down to between 10 and 15 final recommendation candidates that we asked the president to appoint as his White House Fellows. So it's been a very eye-opening experience. It's been very educational for me because there's lots of programs around the country that I didn't know about that these White House Fellows belong to. And the president, to his credit, has gone out of his way to make the commission diverse, and therefore now the White House Fellows are more diverse.
Well, that's what it's about. It's making sure that we are included and that our children have those opportunities. I want to talk to you a little bit about you coming to Houston. You were born and raised in a small town and ended up going to UT, but walk us through that journey a little bit.
Sure. My parents migrated to America in 1974 when I was 3 years old. My father had $100 in his wallet when he landed in New York City. So I'm the son of immigrants, and we started with nothing. In 1977, because of the oil boom, everybody was moving to Houston and Texas. So my parents got all their stuff in a car, put their 2 young kids in a car, and we drove down from New York to Houston. And very soon after moving to Houston, my father purchased some property in a small town called Huffman, Texas. Huffman is a rural community, mainly farming and ranching. And that's where I went to middle school, elementary, middle school, high school, and graduated from there. But growing up in Huffman, it was very good education for me because I got to meet all types of people. And that experience in growing up in a small community here in Texas really helped me become, I think, an effective trial lawyer because it really helps me connect with the jurors, not only when they're on the jury, but when we're picking the jurors during voir dire. It really gives me a lot of insight, and I'm very grateful for that experience that my parents gave me. I went on to UT, then to law school here in Houston, and then started my own firm back in 2001.
And now your firm is recognized as a very, very influential firm in many areas, specifically your practices. Personal injury?
Yes, I've practiced personal injury, but I focus on international aviation accidents. So I'm board certified in personal injury. I'm board certified in civil trial. I'm also licensed as a solicitor in England and Wales, which very few U.S. qualified lawyers actually have their license in England and Wales. I'm one of those lawyers that have licenses on both sides of the pond. So, unfortunately, sometimes planes do have accidents, and when planes have accidents, I'm one of the lawyers that help represents the families to get compensation from the airlines and the manufacturers of the planes when something like this happens. Most recently, the case that we've been working on is a Boeing 737 MAX litigation, which was a brand new plane that Boeing introduced and sold to the airlines, but it had a defective MCAS system. I'm not going to get into the technology part of it, but the plane was malfunctioning, and unfortunately there were two horrific crashes, one in Indonesia and one in Ethiopia, in which everybody lost their lives. And the plane ended up being grounded for about 20 months. So we're working on those cases and trying to help the families around the world get justice.
Well, we're proud that you are in that space, if you will. I know that among Hispanics, there are many misperceptions. So I'm sure in your community as well. I don't want to talk about the misperceptions, but talk to us about today. What are things that you want people who are watching this program to know about your community?
So our community is a very educated, well-established, law-abiding community. The stereotypes that you see on TV and sometimes in movies about our community are absolutely false. And most of the people who fall victim to those stereotypes are people that do not know our community. So I would encourage people who do not have friends from my community to reach out and meet us, because we would love to meet you, and the more you get to know us, the stronger we all become as a community.
Yes. And lastly, tell us what you would like your legacy to be.
So my grandparents, who also were very involved in raising me, always told me that to those to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've been blessed through my parents and my education and my success to reach a certain level in this society. And I want to continue to chart that path so that people coming behind me, as I was following leaders in front of me, continue to move forward and excel and reach even higher levels of success than I've been able to attain. So I want that to be my legacy.
Well, and you certainly every day make a point to not only do well, but do good. And for that, Nomi, and so much more, we're so happy to recognize you as a Houston legend. And also on the personal level, you have been a great friend, and I've enjoyed seeing our children grow up to go on to do incredible things. And so thank you for that and so much more.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Lauren. Thank you again for this honor.
Absolutely. So we thank you for joining us as we recognize our Houston legend, Nomi Hussein, for all of the great work that he has done in this city and continues to do throughout the country. And on behalf of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, join us at our upcoming events, visit our website, and we thank you for all that you do to make Houston a great city. Thank you.